Hey, it's Free Talk Live. You dialed toll free if you want to join us here on the radio waves. Our number for you is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Coming up, drugs and sex-related stories here tonight. With you in the studio, it's Ian.
The nobody formerly known as Rich Paul.
And Chris.
And also, Chris, you're going to be telling us about power outages that are going to be hitting California this summer. That's on the way. But first, in the news from the AP, Donald Trump announcing more tariffs. This time not against Chinese products, but against products coming from Mexico. And I should say, when I say against, I should say against the American people, because it's the American people who suffer these tariffs.
Well, they're suffering on both sides of the border whenever there's a tariff. On either side. It harms both sides.
Sure. But the tariffs that he's putting on these products will not be paid by Mexican people. They'll be paid by Americans who want to buy those products.
It's a national tax.
They will be paid by Americans, but what will happen as an inevitable result of that is that the sales of products from Mexico in the United States will fall and people will substitute American products instead.
No. That's totally wrong. Because
that's
you don't
the theory,
necessarily,
theoretically,
that sounds really good, but in
it's
practice,
not good.
Doesn't sound good.
It's not good because they'd be better off paying less for the products from Mexico. That's how economics works. You follow the path of least resistance.
Well,
so
I think
it is a bad thing.
Well, let him finish his
okay, go
thought.
ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So here's the problem with that. One, those jobs are gone. All right.
Which jobs?
The jobs
that
Trump wants to bring back. The cost of labor in the United States is astronomical compared to China and Mexico. So your minimum wage is going to eat into whatever the tariffs are anyway. So they're not coming back. They might move from one country like Mexico to a different country to avoid the tariffs, but they're not coming back to the United. You're not going to get jobs back in the United States as a result.
Right, and the only people who are going to buy a product made in America as opposed to a product made in Mexico are the ones that are the products that would,
or a product made in China. Well, if you up the tariffs on Mexican imports, some people are going to buy Spanish imports. They're not necessarily going to buy American.
You're assuming that these products are even made in those countries. So if the products aren't being manufactured, if they don't have the capacity or whatever it is that they're doing, and you have to remember, it's expensive to move factories and equipment and everything else. And then you also have to remember the United States isn't, it's a major player around the world economically, but it isn't the world, right? So a lot of stuff, it gets manufactured in a certain region because it's the cheapest region to manufacture it for everybody all over the world. So, we're a piece of that, but we're not the entire thing. So it may not be cost effective. It may not make sense to move just because there are, 10% tariff or 25% or whatever it is.
It may well not. You may just say, okay, well, my sales are lower and there's nothing I can do about that. But your sales will go down if there's a tariff against you, and somebody else's sales will probably go up.
Well, as you pointed out, it could be some other countries.
It's not necessarily they're not necessarily going to buy it from the United States.
Again,
the other thing
that's
is
assuming that there is another option.
We import lots of things from Mexico that we then combine into a new product and export to another country. So that tariff on the raw materials is going to be reflected in the price, and so that reduces American sales.
So there's some truth to this.
Everything is connected to everything else. You can't pass a regulation without everybody suffering.
There's some truth to that, but there's also it's interesting. It will definitely raise costs to manufacture goods for smaller businesses in the United States that have to pay those tariffs on the import of that product. But it also will then put them at a disadvantage in the larger market outside of the United States. So if there are different, especially with smaller companies, there probably are competition world or somewhere else in the world, you are basically pushing that your smaller companies in the United States out of business because of things like this, unless they have a larger product range or something like that may offset it enough to compensate.
Right. So all I'm saying is that the Mexicans also suffer that same effect. If your exports are more expensive, then fewer people buy them. So that is the intended effect. The idea is we're a bigger country and we can hold out longer. Basically we can hurt ourselves longer.
Yeah, I think that can be the case, but it's not necessarily the case. And
it's not necessarily
a larger
the case.
country. And here's the other thing: a larger company may also be able to get those tariffs back if the goods are manufactured for export. So they import something from Mexico and they integrate it into a product and then they export it. So
right, but that takes lots of lawyers, right?
It's not something you're going to be doing as a small business, from what I understand.
Exactly.
They explicitly say if you go to some government website in order to basically try and do that, they're like, you can do it technically, but yeah, it's not worth it, basically.
And that's why...
and they actually say that from the government's own mouth. It's absolutely insane.
And that's why why big business loves regulation, because they've got us outgunned 10-1 with lawyers.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that comes across the border from Mexico, right? I mean, there's fruits, there's vegetables, there's hardware products. I understand that some cars are manufactured down there. I heard that a couple of years ago, Carrier air conditioners moved their manufacturing plant down there.
There's a lot of stuff that's been moved to Mexico.
Yeah,
and that includes people. The immigration rate from the United States to Mexico is actually higher right now than the immigration rate from Mexico to the United States.
Yeah, this is also a good point, because if you actually reduce, if Trump is successful at basically putting these tariffs on, right, that, and theoretically that's going to reduce imports from Mexico into the United States, right? So if that happens, that means there's going to be fewer jobs in Mexico, which means there are going to be more people crossing the border, right?
Which is
fewer jobs here, so there's going to be more people here saying they're taking our jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, the tariffs taking your job.
And this is the excuse that Trump is using for these tariffs. He's saying he wants to do this to punish Mexico for not doing a good enough job at stopping people from coming to the United States.
Why is it their obligation to stop people from coming to the United States? Shouldn't that be America's job if America wants those people not to come?
Well,
yeah,
right.
Really
Trump is essentially admitting here that they can't do anything about it. The government's border patrol can't control this,
which is one of the leading economic powers in the world. Cannot keep people crossing the Mexican-U.S. border. How the heck is the Mexican government going to do it?
So here's a story from the Associated Press.
I think the hope is on his part that, and I don't agree with this stuff. I generally can see what people are trying to do. I think the hope, he wants Mexico to close the Guatemalan border to reduce the number of illegal aliens coming into Mexico and then flowing through to the United States. I think that's his real big issue, and specifically these caravans.
Yeah,
I think scare the dickens out of him.
Yeah, there's truth to that, but the United States is already...
He's not scared by the caravans. It's just political. He uses the caravans.
He's scared of losing his job, all right? And anything that makes him look stupid makes it more likely for him to lose his job.
This is a political move. This has nothing to do with reality.
Move.
They've already been funding major defenses. Like the U.S. has gone into Mexico and funded some sort of additional border security between Mexico and, is it Guatemala borders it? I forget what the country is, but yeah, I mean they've already enhanced those defenses, and apparently they still are ineffective with U.S. funds.
So let's get to the story here from the Associated Press. In a surprise announcement that could derail a major trade deal, Donald Trump announced yesterday, apparently, that he's slapping a 5% tariff on all Mexican imports effective June 10th. So if you want to get something from Mexico at its current price, get it now. You've got 10 days, basically, to do this, to pressure the government in Mexico to do more to crack down on the surge of Central American migrants trying to cross the U.S. border. He said the percentage will gradually increase up to 25%, quote, until the illegal immigration problem is remedied, unquote. The decision showed the administration going to new lengths, looking for new levers to pressure Mexico to take action, even if those risk upending other policy priorities like the U.S.-Mexican-Canada agreement, a trade deal that is the cornerstone of Trump's legislative agenda.
And just to give you an idea of the importance of this, two factors caused the Great Depression. One was the creation of the Federal Reserve, and the other was the Smoot-Hawley Tariff
Let's talk more about that coming up here in moments on Free Talk Live. You can join us. It is Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever you want here. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We do have the Discord on-air call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm. So feel free to join us there if you want to sound almost like you're sitting here in the studio with us. Coming up, a California crackdown on power availability. Like, you may not have it at some points during the summertime if you're living in California.
Like a regular power cuts, like third world kind of power
like
cuts.
Like Venezuela.
It sounds like Venezuela or China. That's exactly what I was thinking.
They're talking about
rolling blackouts is what they call it in other countries.
Even worse, because what they're talking about, what I read in a prior story to this, was they're talking about week-long power outages and like weekly power outages.
Let's get into it a little bit later. That's coming up here. Of course, you can take control of the airwaves. 855-450-FREE. Now, Bitcoin.com is your premier source for everything Bitcoin Cash related. Bitcoin.com can help you choose your Bitcoin Cash wallet, buy Bitcoin Cash, and show you where you can spend your Bitcoin Cash. You can also read the latest news and engage with the community on their forums. Plus, in just days from now, I think this Tuesday, they're going to be rolling out their local.bitcoin.com, their brand new site that will allow you to purchase or sell your Bitcoin Cash for other things, a variety of other options, perhaps fiat currency, perhaps gift cards or whatever it is you want to do your deal for. They're going to have encrypted communications between buyer and seller. You will not need to do know your customer requirements in order to sign up as a seller on the site. And there's some other cool differences that are really going to set that site apart. Go to local.bitcoin.com. The site's up now. You can register for your account right now, but the actual activity on the site will be starting on June 4th. So check it out, local.bitcoin.com. As we continue here with Trump announcing a 5% tariff on all Mexican imports expected to start June 10th. And he says that the percentage will gradually increase up to 25%, quote, until the illegal immigration problem is remedied. Now, exactly what that's going to mean as far as how Trump will know when the problem's been remedied or not is another question. But you were just telling us, I don't know if you mentioned it on the air.
I did not, but I'm more than happy to talk about it.
Yeah, so you, as a business owner, a person who runs a business called Think Penguin, which sells computer parts and computer hardware, laptops, desktop kind of computers based on Linux, focused on privacy. Check them out over at thinkpenguin.com. But you lost a bid to Mexico.
We did. We had some sort of college, I think it was, university, probably, I don't know, I think some science department. Basically, they submitted they requested a quote, and the quotes then got submitted as basically a bid for a computer, $2,500 computer, and we basically lost by basically the cost of the shipping. And that was $25. So
to a competitor in Mexico. And this was not the result of these tariffs that were going on at Mexico. Well, it hasn't happened yet. June 10th.
Right. It was the result of the tariffs in China, because the parts that we use have to be imported from China because they're not manufactured anywhere else.
Now, presumably, the Mexican supplier is importing the same parts then.
Right, and they're importing them without a tariff. So we are actually put at a disadvantage. And I was actually...
So Trump lost you some business.
Right. Trump resulted in a lost business for us.
But if the Trump Mexican tariffs are put in place, then their quote would have had to have been higher priced, right? So maybe you would have gotten...
No, because they were in
the
Mexico.
Price of their quote because they weren't importing anything from the
Right.
No, the computer would be shipped from Mexico to the college, right?
But the college is in Mexico.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that detail.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was a quote within Mexico from a company to
So we lost a sale. So America lost a sale to Mexico because of the sales, because of the tariffs on Japan. And that's a rational thing for the Chinese and the Mexicans to do as we tariff them to death is trade with each other. You know, and it's not just that they can buy computers 25% cheaper there to set up the next Facebook or the next Twitter.
Unlike China, we don't have any kind of serious manufacturing capacity in the United States, especially not for electronics like that. So there isn't really another option as far as getting motherboards or certain other things.
Right.
It's not to say that there's no manufacturing capacity, but there's not enough to meet demand. So there's no way, and you can't just ramp that kind of thing up. If we've actually looked into this, and we're talking basically nobody responds. The factories that do manufacturing in the United States, they don't even respond most of the time. And the ones, if you get a response, they're like, oh yeah, maybe a year from now. But you can't, when you're in a market, a technology market, you can't have a product out, a year, a design you manufactured a year later, because that's a year old product at that point. So you're in China, you go to the factory and they manufacture you something like the next day, not a year out.
Wow.
Like, I mean, again, it might be a little bit exaggerated, but for prototyping at least, certainly. And it certainly doesn't, generally it's probably, I don't know, like, I think I want to say like 2 to 3 months probably, if we were to put in a manufacturing run for something generally in China. Sometimes it's like some of the stuff we're doing though is older, so it's like 6 to 8 months. But generally speaking, most of your stuff that you're getting is not going to be anywhere near that in terms of how long it takes to manufacture. So
Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador responded in a public letter late Thursday telling Trump that, quote, social problems are not solved with duties or coercive measures.
Good answer. Why are you a politician?
Well, politicians usually sound a little better when they're not dealing with their own constituents.
Well,
right?
yeah, that's true. They're all pro-freedom for everybody else, just not the people under their thumbs.
He told Trump that, and alluded to the United States' history as a nation of immigrants. He said, quote, the Statue of Liberty is not an empty symbol. Unquote. He also said he was
Actually, that's wrong on 2 counts. First off, it's hollow. Secondly, it is a symbol. I'm sorry.
I think what he meant was that it's supposed to have meaning.
It should not be a hollow symbol.
Yeah. Maybe it was misquoted.
Although it's probably a good idea that it's physically hollow, because that would be an awful lot of copper, and that stuff's expensive.
Well, but the point I think he's trying to make is that the Statue of Liberty had an intention behind it. There's a poem that is emblazoned upon it, and it's all about welcoming, the unwashed masses, the people who generally are poorer around the world, to this purportedly free country. And there was a real good message behind the Statue of Liberty, and it's been completely, subverted. Since that time.
It was sent to us, I've been told, although I haven't confirmed this, actually as like recognition of our accomplishment of passing the 13th Amendment and eliminating slavery except for pot smokers and other criminals.
He said that he was dispatching his foreign relations secretary to Washington to try to negotiate a solution in his growing fury over an increase in border crossings that he has likened to a, quote, invasion. Trump has blamed Mexico for failing to stop the flow of asylum seekers from countries like El Salvador and Honduras who pass through its territory. And he's been itching to take increasingly radical headline-grabbing action on the issue, which he sees as critical to his 2020 campaign because it energizes his base.
Now, you remember how upset we were that East Germany had this population and they wouldn't let them leave?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that they're now saying, hey, Mexico, not only should you not let your own citizens leave to come here, you should somehow prevent people who don't even live in your country from leaving your country.
The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. When Mexico's got thousands of people crossing its southern border, what exactly are they supposed to do? Mass slaughter? I want to tell you about my favorite cryptocurrency wallet, Edge Wallet, at edge.app. Edge is the wallet I use more than any other, and that was true long before Edge Wallet became a sponsor of Free Talk Live. Edge Wallet allows you to buy, sell, trade, and securely hold your cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, tokens, Monero, Ripple, Dash, Bitcoin Cash, and more. It's available for both Android and iOS, and you can download it via the Play or App Store or via Edge Wallet's website, edge.app. Secure your freedom with Edge Wallet. Hey, it's Free Talk Live. You can dial in toll-free here. You can bring up whatever you want. Our number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We have the Discord on-air call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm, so feel free to jump into one of those, and you'll sound almost like you're sitting here in the studio with us. Tonight, it's Ian.
The nobody formerly known as Rich Paul.
And Chris?
AnyPay.global is the premier solution for businesses looking to accept cryptocurrency at the point of sale. But it's more than that, as the boys from AnyPay pointed out this week when they were on with us on Tuesday night, that anybody can use AnyPay because now it's just an app you can download for iOS or Android. Let's say, for instance, you don't want to open up your cryptocurrency wallet and show somebody your balance. Well, with AnyPay, it's not your wallet. It's just a way to accept cryptocurrency. So if you've got, let's say you're a service provider, you're going over to somebody's house doing some plumbing work or something like that, or fixing a computer or whatever, and you want to accept payment from your customer without revealing anything about your wallet's holdings or which cryptos you have or whatever. Because, if I open up my Edge wallet, there's a balance there. I can hide the balance if I want to, but it still shows, I've got Dash, I've got Monero. Well, with AnyPay, you type in the amount that you want to receive. It creates a QR code. Your customer scans it and pays you. Boom, paid. You're done. It's super easy.
It's nice, too, because it also lets you enter a number, which will then be scannable from the user's wallet. So
correct. They'll have the price that
it'll
you're
just
requesting
pop right up
them
on their phone.
If you're not using AnyPay, especially if you have employees who are going to be accepting Bitcoin on your behalf, it's a good idea to have a hot wallet and to move your Bitcoin into a cold wallet. Think of it as your drop safe for your business because you don't give your employee access to all your cash.
Correct.
So don't give them access to all your Bitcoin.
This prevents that from happening. It only allows the person with the app to receive payments for you, whether it's you or an employee. And
Absolutely.
It's super easy. You can do a bunch of different cryptos there. I think they're up to 11 of them now. But they include, of course, Bitcoin BTC, Dash, Zcash, Bitcoin Cash, and more. Go and get all the details at helpmetakebitcoin.com or just download the AnyPay app from your iOS or Apple or your Google app stores. Helpmetakebitcoin.com. As we continue here, Donald Trump talking tough, saying that he's going to be putting a 5% tariff on all Mexican imports, which, of course, is only going to punish the people in the United States. Get ready.
Oh, yeah.
Your fruit and veggie prices are going up.
We didn't have a national tax before, but now we do.
A national tax? Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
that's an interesting
like a sales tax at the national level.
Right.
At least on some certain goods.
On a lot of stuff, right? China and Mexico?
Mm-hmm.
What percentage of goods imported into the United States come from those two countries? I don't know, but I bet you it's a significant portion of them.
Oh, it absolutely is.
And he says it's going to start on June 10th and that it could ratchet up as high as 25%. He wants the Mexican government to crack down on the asylum seekers coming from other parts of Central America, like Honduras, for instance. Now, of course, we saw in the 2018 election where there was this this large group of migrants that were coming up from Honduras, and there was a lot of news media about this. There was a lot of fear-mongering about these people. And then eventually, once the election was over, you'd never heard another word about them.
Nope.
It was not an issue any longer. And that's because really, 4,000 people is a drop in the bucket. It's really nothing. Also, most of them didn't make it across the U.S. border.
There's
there's
over 300 million people in the United States. Yeah, that's nothing.
You're talking about the population of a very small town.
Yep.
And if they're spread out across the whole country, then it's really absolutely nothing.
Does that even constitute a town? I mean, that's more like a village, probably.
Yeah, barely.
How many people is it again?
There were 4,000 or so.
4,000.
In the migrant horde.
That would be a village.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the sudden tariff threat comes, this according to the AP, comes at a peculiar time, given how hard the administration has been pushing for the USMCA, which is this new proposed agreement between Canada and Mexico and the U.S. that would update the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA. It comes less than 2 weeks after Trump lifted import taxes on Mexican and Canadian steel and aluminum, a move that seemed to clear an obstacle to its passage, and the same day that both Trump and Mexican President López Obrador began the process of seeking ratification. The deal needs approval from lawmakers in all three countries before it takes effect. Quote, this is from Gary Huffbauer, an expert in trade law. The tariff certainly put the USMCA on ice. He panned the move, but said Trump doesn't have the legal authority to impose the tariffs under the EPA, which is the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, by citing a national emergency.
He doesn't have the power? I thought he said he did have the power.
Well, Trump is saying that he has the power. Oh, no, he says he does have. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Trump does have the legal authority.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You read it wrong.
He says that
and that's an interesting case that he has that legal authority because the Democrats chose to give it to JFK to use against the Russians.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, once again, every president builds on the power of the previous ones, that had come before, and they don't ratchet power back. Anything that Barack Obama got power to do, now Trump can do, and so on and so forth.
So it makes the cycle that first the left comes in and grows government in one way, and then the right comes in and grows government the other way, but none of them ever undo what the previous ones have done in any major way. Even Obamacare isn't quite gone.
It reminds me of, well, we're not going to do anything bad with this law. It's like, yeah, sure, maybe you won't, but what happens when your opposition gets into power? They're going to abuse it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the first time, points out the AP, that Trump has punted on an immigration threat. In late March, he threatened to shut the entire U.S.-Mexican border. Remember that? If Mexico didn't immediately halt illegal immigration. Just a few days later, Trump backed off the threat, saying he was pleased with steps that Mexico had taken in recent days.
Well, what steps were those?
It was unclear what Mexico had changed. So who knows? And who knows what backroom dealings were going on.
What do you do in a matter of days,
that sounds
right?
like they cut a backroom deal.
And the Mexican president did say he was sending his envoy to D.C. to talk to Trump about this.
Yeah.
Indeed, on a briefing call with reporters Thursday evening, administration officials said Mexico could prevent the tariffs from kicking in by securing the southern border with Guatemala and entering into a, quote, safe third country agreement, unquote, that would make it difficult for those who enter Mexico from other countries to claim asylum in the United States. Acting White House Chief of Staff Nick Mulvaney said, "We're going to judge success here by the number of people crossing the border, and that number needs to start coming down immediately in a significant and substantial number." Now, one of the things you pointed out, Rich, was that basically Trump is looking to have Mexico and their government goons do his bidding. He wants them to stop the potential border crossers using whatever violence would be necessary to do that, because what happened in the 2018 election timeframe when the so-called horde from Honduras was coming over was there was such a large number of people that were crossing. The border security there in Mexico at the southern border was overwhelmed, and they weren't willing to shoot those folks with anything more than some rubber bullets. And that was it. They just got overwhelmed, and they just rolled right through. They got into the water. They'd stopped them at a bridge, but they just went into the water from there and just got right onto dry land and were allowed to just keep walking. They didn't
it's like a government trying to stop a market.
Well, right, and it's just a civil disobedience. It's an act of civil disobedience.
It is.
And the same thing has happened with us here in Keene, New Hampshire, where we had 100+ people in Central Square smoking cannabis back in 2009. It was almost a decade ago at this point. It was later this year. We'll celebrate the 10th anniversary of that. But having a large number of people, we outnumbered the police. There was very little they could do besides target you, Rich, as the person they perceived to be the leader of the effort. But when they took you out, the same people just walked down to the police station and smoked up in the police station lobby.
Yes.
Oh, I would have loved to have been there for that.
And they did nothing.
It was a great day. Although, actually, I got to correct you on one thing.
Yeah.
When, they smoked in the lobby while Evan was arrested because I actually got the last. I ended up with the roach.
That's true. I was summarizing the events, but yes, the day before they arrested you, and we went and smoked up at the police station behind the police station while we waited for them to release you, and then it was the next day where they arrested Evan, and then we went and smoked inside the lobby, and the cops did nothing about it. Because, I mean, they could have started arresting people, but they didn't. There's more coming up here. It's Free Talk Live. Hey, it's Free Talk Live. You can dial toll-free to join us here. We're talking about the new proposed tariffs that Trump says he's going to be putting on all Mexican imports starting on June 10th at 5%, and then there's a scheduled rollout of that increasing over the next few months. We'll tell you more about that. With you tonight, it's Ian.
The nobody formerly known as Rich Paul.
And Chris.
And also rolling blackouts coming to California this summer. Chris has that story. That's on the way as well. Our toll-free number, if you want to join us, is 855-450-FREE like freedom. Trump saying he wants Mexico to crack down on its southern border, with the idea being that Mexico can do all the ugly stuff of, whatever violence would be necessary to stop large masses of people who want to get out of a hellhole, by the way. I mean, Honduras is a notoriously corrupt government. I mean, all governments are corrupt and terrible, but Honduras is one of the worst and one of the most violent places on the planet. So you can't blame somebody for wanting to get out of there.
Yeah, I mean, but the only way to stop them is literally going to be to set up machine gun nests on the southern border of Mexico, which is much more easier than doing it at the southern border of the United States, because the southern border of Mexico is much cheaper.
Cheaper, and also the videos of the horrors that would be, inflicted upon those innocent people who are just trying to come to a better place aren't going to be as likely to make it to the United States. Even though we have the internet, they're just not going to get shared as often here. It's not going to be as much of an outrage if the Mexican government slaughters innocent people trying to come
in. Once the slaughter is over, you can say, "Oh, we didn't mean that."
You mean Trump would
deniability,
Trump could
exactly.
Say that.
Oh, you shouldn't have done it that way,
right? But according to the story of the AP, the threat comes at a time when Mexico has been stepping up its efforts to crack down on migrants.
Yeah, using funds from the U.S. government.
Carrying out raids and detaining thousands of people traveling through the country en route to the U.S. The crumbling city of Tapachula near the Guatemalan border has become the epicenter of the crackdowns, with thousands of migrants stranded because the Mexican government isn't providing them with visas to travel. In addition, the Mexican government has allowed the U.S. to send back hundreds of asylum seekers from Central America and other countries, forcing them to wait out their cases in Mexico. But that has not been enough to satisfy Trump, whose White House laid out an escalating schedule of tariff increases if his demands are not met. It'll go up to 10% on July 1st, 15% on August 1st, 20% on September 1st, and then 25% on October 1st. After that, the White House said, quote, tariffs will permanently remain at the 25% level unless and until Mexico substantially stops the illegal inflow of aliens coming through its territory.
It sounds like an excuse just to implement a tax, basically, for government's coffers. It doesn't even sound like, because they're not going to be able to, substantially stop the traffic coming from, the south of their border.
I mean, the Mexican government could probably wipe out the Mexican civilian population if they really wanted to. I mean, they could make it stop. The question is, are they going to be willing to set loose the rivers of blood that would be involved? And I don't know. The Mexican government likes blood just as much as the American government does.
It's a sad story.
They certainly didn't seem to care that much, or have even with the ramped up U.S. funding, they still didn't seem to have the manpower to stop the flood of immigrants coming over the border into Mexico.
Yeah, well, that's why maybe they're doing the crackdowns after the fact, raiding places, targeting smaller groups, because once if the large group comes across, they're not going to stay as a large group. They're going to go into different homes in different areas, right?
Right. They were spreading out. They were taking different paths, things of that nature, from what I understand.
So in the same way that if a group of civil disobedience is together, they're going to crack down later on, maybe. If they can identify the leader, they might go to that person's house while they're alone and get them.
Yeah, one of the things I always did at the 420 rally was when we were down to the last, under 10 people, I would generally be like, okay, let's get out of here.
All together, you mean?
Yeah, let's all leave the square at the same time, so we're never leaving. You never have a couple of stranglers for the wolves to pick off.
Let's go to Sarah. She's in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, Sarah.
Oh, yeah. I just want to bring up that, did you know, I think 29% of New Mexican motorists are uninsured. So
New Mexican motorists.
Yeah, our state. So it's about one third are uninsured. So I think they're technically breaking state law, because I think they're required but they just don't have it.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Hooray for civil disobedience.
Yay.
Well, now, of course, you can protect yourself against that by insuring against uninsured motorists, meaning that you can pay your insurance company in case, to cover you in case you run into or are run into by an uninsured motorist.
So the problem is that we did pass that law where they're going to charge bad drivers. So with these uninsured motorists, I mean, who are they going to charge?
I'm not sure what you're asking. If somebody gets into a car accident and a criminal charge is leveled, it has nothing to do necessarily with whether or not they're carrying insurance. There may be an additional charge because of that, but what are you trying to say?
We passed the city law where if they cause a big accident, they will charge the insurance company, and they will increase your rate. But what about these uninsured motorists? There is nobody to charge. It's a new law that if you cause an accident,
you're saying they can't increase the rates.
You can't pay more for insurance if you aren't buying insurance at all.
That's not the same thing as a criminal charge, Sarah. That's a kind of like almost a civil penalty that could be enacted upon people. So you're not talking about the same thing there. You're not talking about a criminal charge at all.
So we just passed a law that if you cause an accident that costs more than $1,500, I'm not talking about like something fender bender, wheeling, but like little stuff. But if they got to claw you out with a claw, they're going to charge you, but they're going to charge the insurance companies, and they're going to raise your rate. But again,
why wouldn't you just charge the person who caused the accident? It's not really. It's not really the insurance
because they may not have deep enough pockets. If they go after the insurer, then the insurer is going to pay up.
Okay, but if they don't have insurance, you would think they'd just go after the person who was driving.
You would think, yeah.
I mean, if that's what they were
generally,
going to do.
People who have money have insurance to protect that money. It's people who don't have anything in their pockets that aren't protecting.
But that's never
the
stopped them
contents
from
of their
charging
pockets.
them. I mean, that's never stopped them.
Well,
from...
you can charge them more for insurance later.
Well, but you can also just slap them with a fine, and if they don't pay it, then they go to jail or whatever, or you put them on a payment plan, just like the local courts here. I mean, they don't care whether or not you can pay right now. They'll put you on a payment plan, and then you can pay even more, pay a 20% surcharge on top of the already arbitrary number that they're trying to hit you with. So, Sarah, I mean, if anything, this is going to discourage people from getting insurance, right? So if you're concerned that people don't have insurance, 1 out of 3 drivers don't have insurance, if the driver then finds out that their rates are going to get jacked up if they get into an accident, that's another reason to not have insurance.
Or to discontinue your insurance.
Right, not renew it.
So then here's the thing. You're better off, so if you have no money and no car insurance, and so there's no penalties for you speeding and running red light. You could cause all the big accidents you want. I
don't think anyone wants to go out and cause an accident.
There's already an incentive not to get into an accident.
Right.
You're going to end up having... Well, besides getting hurt, you're also going to have your own vehicle expenses to take care of. I don't care if you're in an old beater or if you're in a brand new car. Somebody who's in an old beater doesn't have the money to get their car fixed.
That's right, or get another car.
Right, they're going to be even safer drivers probably than the people who are insured drivers.
That's right. You can actually argue that the uninsured drivers may be driving more cautiously.
Right.
As a result. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah, for the call.
I drive more cautiously when I don't have insurance.
The toll-free
I would
number
too.
is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Coming up here tonight, in fact, coming up in the next hour, Chris, we're going to get into this story about rolling blackouts. The state of California talking about this summer actually cutting power to people for extended periods of time.
Up to a week.
That is just shocking. And
this is a regular, every week kind of deal.
If you needed another reason to leave California, there it is.
Wow.
And we're going to get into the ugly detail. I imagine ugly. I don't know the story
yet. Welcome to the third world, CA.
Right.
Oh, this is definitely third world kind of
stuff. A bizarre kind of third world where they're flush with money. California's an incredibly...
The government's not, though.
Yeah, but the people, the economy of California is tremendous. So, they're living large in California with all the Starbucks and the computer companies and everything.
Some of the people are. It's a two-class society. There's a lot of really hungry people in California, too.
There's no hungry people in the United States.
hungry, not dead.
Yeah. It ain't Venezuela yet. 855 450 free. But this is
going there though.
This is a harbinger of things to come. More coming up here. We'll get into it on Free Talk Live.
Ike was such a sweet, lovable animal, and people would want to pet him, and they'd come up and they'd get close to him, and it would be this instant, oh! My dad didn't want to touch him. It's like, ooh, get the stinky dog away from me.
Even after we'd give her a bath, she would still stink.
Very stinky, both bad breath and bad gas. I asked the vet, and he said some dogs are just stinky.
Does your dog itch, scratch, stink, or shed like crazy? Come to Dinovite for help.
DINOVITE.com.
The omega-3 fatty acids.
Flaxseed, zinc, alfalfa.
The digestive enzymes that are cooked out of regular dog food.
The ingredients convinced me that it was definitely worth trying. After about a week, he started smelling normal. My husband and I were really kind of astonished.
Dinovite is nutrition.
859-428-1000.
DINOVITE.com.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. We're launching into the second hour of the program. You can bring up what you want here. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Yet again, the government goons are charging another teenager for making so-called child pornography of themselves. We'll get into that story later on. But first, California is going to be cracking down on your power supply coming up this summer. In the studio tonight, by the way, it's Ian.
The nobody formerly known as Rich Paul.
And Chris.
And Chris joining us also from his show that you and Rich do together.
That's right.
Or you and nobody, rather, do together on Saturday afternoons called Freedom Decrypted.
It's true.
Which is where you can go to hear tech talk, basically, technology-related discussions coming from a pro-freedom perspective over at freedomdecrypted.com. All right, let's jump into this story.
Yeah, so this is a story coming from ABC, NBC, I don't know, one of them. Let's see if I can.
It's about California.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, U.S. News. So, yeah, California approves wide power outages to prevent wildfires. Yeah.
Huh?
How's that going to work?
I don't know.
Well, if you don't have power in your house, you can't cause a spark when you flip on a badly wired electrical system that could then catch your house on fire, and that could then catch a forest on fire.
That's true. You'd have to go to all the trouble of kicking over your kerosene lamp.
You know what? I think what it is it's something to the effect of California has prevented the electric companies from like cutting back brush, and so they haven't, and so now there's a fire risk or something like that. I think it's something along those lines. I don't think the story gets into it. I don't think the story actually gets into it, unfortunately. Okay. I wish they did, because it's like, oh, this is California government being stupid.
If anybody out there knows this excuse as to why they think that stopping power distribution is going to lower the incidence of forest fires, please.
Well, I mean, if there's dry brush close to the line and the line sparks, I mean, I could see it like a transformer or something like that.
Well, is the idea that they're going to stop the power while they go and cut the brush back, because otherwise they're just going to turn it back on later?
Right. I don't think so. I think it's just they're cutting the power.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Yeah. Let's hear
more.
It
really doesn't. Cutting the trees might make sense.
California regulators on Thursday approved allowing, I love the way they word this too, approved allowing utilities to cut off electricity to possibly hundreds of thousands of customers to avoid catastrophic wildfires like the one sparked by power lines last year that killed 85 people and largely destroyed the city of Paradise. You know what's funny about this is they're probably going to kill more people by cutting power than the wildfires caused.
Yeah, in Florida, where I grew up,
like just old people on ventilators and things like that.
Yeah, every now and then, cutting off power results in old people dying of heat exhaustion. I mean,
that too. California, same thing.
Not just the ventilators. That's certainly another good point. They could be relying on power for important medical devices.
Well, not just that. They're relying on being able to call their their nephew or something to come over and open their pill bottle or help them when they can't.
Refrigeration of medicines too is another one. If the medicines don't stay refrigerated, they become ineffective, and the people can die as a result.
Well, the good news, Rich, is that landline telephones do have their own power.
This is true.
Associated with them, and elderly folks are more likely to actually still have a landline phone, so they may still be able to call as they're dying from heat exhaustion to let their loved ones know.
Yeah, I mean, assuming they don't pass out first. And, yeah. Utilities liability can reach billions of dollars, and after several years of devastating wildfires, they asked regulators to allow them to pull the plug when the fire.
So this is coming from the utility provider. The utility provider asked the government to allow
because
this.
they won't allow them to cut the brush, though. Like, I think the story is missing half of the story. So they had no choice. Like, either they cut the power or, they face liability.
What?
I don't know. I don't understand it myself. It just seems absolutely insane to me. That's mainly during periods of excessive winds and low humidity when vegetation is dried out and can easily ignite. I mean, they're talking about vegetation being dried out and easily ignite. Now, usually they'll cut back the vegetation, but the only reason why you wouldn't do that is if the government wasn't allowing you to. The California Public Utilities Commission gave the green light, but said utilities must do a better job educating and notifying the public, particularly those with disabilities and others who are vulnerable. Yeah, I mean, it's just absolutely insane. Let's see here. The plans inconvenience hundreds of thousands of customers while endangering some who depend on electricity to keep them alive, like 56-year-old Calethea Miller. Although she lives far from wildfire danger near a shopping mall in Stockton, south of Sacramento, she relies on a refrigerator to cool her insulin and a machine to keep her breathing at night.
They have a term for this, according to the Los Angeles Times. They call it de-energization.
De-energization. Third worldization. How's that?
That's exactly what this is, third world. The precautionary outages could mean multi-day blackouts for cities. And as I recall reading in a prior story, they're talking about up to a week outages during the summer.
Insane.
And then basically they said, I forget exactly the number of days, but basically it would be like once a week, basically, probably, in terms of an outage. Let's see here. Multi-day blackouts for cities as large as San Francisco and San Jose.
San Jose.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I did the same thing last number of years ago. It's La Jolla, not La Jolla.
La Jolla,
Yeah, Jolla. Northern California's major power provider warned in a recent filing with the Utilities Commission.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's
this is unprecedented. At least in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, literally, people are going to have to start getting generators and stuff in California and operating.
Then you're going to have people dying because they put the generator inside the house and things like that.
Or the generator blows up and starts a wildfire.
I mean, these are city dwellers mostly in California.
Yeah, they don't know anything about this.
It's not like New
that's
Hampshire.
The other problem. In the city, you have no place to put a generator.
True.
You probably end up putting it in your garage or something like that.
That is going to kill you.
Killing you.
Yeah, that can kill you. You might be able to put it on the roof of your building if you're close enough and there's enough.
And then you'll get a
room.
fine. You'll catch a fine from the local regulatory agency.
You probably will. Yeah. Well, they have to use that money to stop the power companies from cutting the trees that are endangering the power lines.
I'm just going to supplement your story here with a little bit from the L.A. Times on the same thing here. Quote, if sharing some short-lived pain can prevent wildfires, such as the one that just about vaporized Paradise and killed 85 last fall, then it would be worth the trouble. This is how they're pitching it.
Wow,
we're just sharing in the pain of not having power in order to help save lives, which will result in other people dying for other reasons.
Yeah. Utility equipment has been blamed for many of California's most destructive and deadly wildfires in recent years. Yeah, well, maybe you should let the power companies do their job and cut back the wildlife.
Well, that's how government operates. That's how government operates, because this is a case of the seen
and the
versus the unseen. What's seen is Paradise burning down. What's not seen is the secondary and tertiary effects of a power blackout that may well cause more people, but do it more subtly and more to the politicians' liking.
Oh, wow. This is a great quote here. We are worried about it because we could see people's power shut off, not for a day or two, Wow, I thought they were talking about hours like once a week, but they're talking about days on like a weekly basis.
In Venezuela, they get a little bit of power every day, like, 2 hours a day.
I know.
Maybe they could go Venezuela style. Well, they could call it that, the Venezuela
Right? Sounds like they get more power in North Korea.
They do probably. Or 2, but potentially a week. This is from the governor.
We've got to watch for satellite pictures of this when the lights go out.
Oh,
Look
wow.
at the satellite pictures of the rest of California and then the blackout zone.
So they're going to spend $75 million to help communities prepare for this, too. Why don't they just cut back the bush like they should?
Trees. Is this all about tree huggers? Are they hugging the trees? Is that what's going on here?
150,000 customers rely on life support equipment, apparently, that they're going to be putting at risk. Compared to 85 people who died, right? Like,
wow.
We're going to put 185,000 or 150,000 people at risk.
I mean, this sounds like satire, but it's true. There's more coming up here in moments. We've got more to the story, and let's compare this to Venezuela as well.
We should. I wonder if we can pull up some numbers on Venezuela.
Well, maybe we should take California off life support.
855-450 free, like freedom. That's the number.
The government.
If you're in California and you know more about this, you want to weigh in, please feel free. Or if you've been in places with rolling blackouts before and you want to comment on what life is like, we'd love to hear from you. Or you can bring up anything you want here. This is Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live. You can dial on in here. The toll-free number is 855-450, free like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We have the Discord call-in line rooms. They're open and available to you. Actually, we're going to go to a Discord caller here shortly. And if you're on Discord, you're going to sound almost like you're sitting here in the studio with us. Tonight, you've got Ian.
The nobody formerly known as Rich Paul.
And Chris.
Are you trying to reach the cryptocurrency market? Perhaps you want to spread mass awareness of your new crypto technology. Either way, you need a communications company that specializes in that field. Not just your typical PR firm. They don't know anything about crypto. Leveraging 35-plus different brands, part of the Investor Brand Network, and more than 5,000 downstream distribution partners, Cryptocurrency Wire combines the power of specialization with mass market reach. And with their help, you can start connecting with the crypto-friendly journalists and get more than 1.6 and get access to more than 1.6 million followers. Their commitment is to get the most eyes possible on your big news while it's fresh, whether domestic or international. They can reach 56 different countries and provide translation services. Even if your company is an important, relevant newsmaker, you need someone that specializes in the field to get your message heard. CryptocurrencyWire.com, and we've used them here at Free Talk Live as well. It's CryptocurrencyWire.com. As we continue, there's if you're trying to wire anything in California this summer, you might be SOL due to massive, possible, likely even blackouts to be imposed by PG&E, which is one of the power companies there in the state.
So it's interesting. I'm reading here that they're actually apparently this is specific to investor-owned power companies. So apparently, I guess state-owned power companies this doesn't apply to. It's super interesting. Once power is shut off, the utilities must inspect every de-energized line before they restore power.
Oh, my God.
A process that can keep
take
the
forever.
lights out for days, even after conditions improve. So basically what they're saying is even when their conditions improve, they still have to go and finish inspect the line, which seems like insane to me. Both PG&E and Southern California Edison used their new authority last fall with many residents and local officials upset that stores, businesses, and schools had to close for the lack of electricity.
Sorry, can't do business.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
60,000 homes, according to this, in October. PG&E blacked out for apparently, I don't know if it says how long it was, but it was did not make business owners happy.
No.
It wouldn't.
And now they say here, and this is the Sacramento Bee reporting, that it was last year there were only 570,000 of their households and business customers that were subject to potential blackouts. This year, the potential pool has grown tenfold to more than 5 million power customers.
Wow.
Yep. This is what happens.
$1 million here and $1 million there. Pretty soon you got real numbers.
Yeah, this is what happens when government gets involved. It overreacts because they're basing it off emotions rather than logic and rational thinking, like the power companies would do if they were in control. They're damned if they do and damned if they don't. Canning said. There's only so much we can do as a city to protect you. Individual residents have to be prepared. Well, I mean, I'm doubtful that the city had anything to do with this, and it was probably the state government. But I mean,
so the city is limited in what it can do to protect you from the state government protecting you by killing you.
Right. It's absolutely insane. Miller said her backup plan is a cat named Mojo who instinctively paws at her face whenever she stops breathing. Wow.
What?
So this is one of the women who are dependent on a ventilator. And so if she stops breathing at night, she's relying on the cat to wake her
up if the machine's down.
Right, if the machine goes down.
Oh, she must have severe apnea. Sleep apnea is when you stop sleeping or you stop breathing while you're sleeping, but if you wake up, you'll be okay.
Yeah. It puts us in a dangerous situation and a stressful situation, she said.
Yeah.
If they have a
Time
blackout,
to leave California.
Right? You have to ask, why are people not leaving foul? I mean, I guess they are.
You could sell your house in California and buy 3 in New Hampshire.
If you love freedom. If you don't, just stay away from New Hampshire.
There's other states.
If you think the government can solve your problems, don't come here.
Look, if you guys, if you're not a freedom loving person, go to North Carolina. North Carolina's got some really low housing costs as well. They don't necessarily have they do have taxes like sales tax and things like that, but at least the housing cost and the general cost of living is pretty low.
Or go to New Mexico and look up Sarah. She's a communist. She'll take care of you.
I don't know what the cost of living in New Mexico are.
Keep going with your story, because I've got a real shocker coming from
it puts us in dangerous situations and stressful situations. She said if they have a blackout that lasts for 5 days, I'm screwed. That's the end of the story.
So I'm at the end here of the Sacramento Bee story, and there's just a real shocking, because our question, I think, is why aren't they trimming back the brush?
Yeah.
Right? And if you want to compare what's going on in California to Venezuela, when the Venezuelan blackout happened earlier this year, you may recall.
It was also a brush issue, wasn't it?
That was what some people alleged. There were some people who had seen brush growing.
They weren't cutting them.
Right, and that's just due to bureaucratic incompetence, because in Venezuela, the power is provided by the government. It's not a private company there. It's government-provided power.
So the government was stopping the government from trimming the trees.
Well, they just weren't doing it for whatever reason. Lazy bureaucrats or whatever. It just wasn't getting done for whatever reason, and so that can definitely contribute to some fires, which might have led to the basically like a 5-day at least long power outage there. Luckily for them, it was in the middle of the winter in Venezuela is not a bad time to lose power, because you're not going to freeze to death. So
unless you're on electric power.
Well, but you're not going to freeze to death in Venezuela.
It's warm outside.
Venezuela.
Right.
So you're just not going to freeze to death
I wasn't
at
thinking
any
about
point.
This. I'm just thinking winter cold, right?
So luckily they didn't have mass deaths because of that.
Yeah.
But here's the details: is why in California, according to Sacramento Bee, although PG&E's overall plan for reducing fire risk was approved, the commission, meaning the government, still hasn't signed off on the $1.8 billion the utility is wanting to spend on tree removal, increased inspections, and other programs.
Yeah, I knew it was something like this.
Picker said PG&E will have to justify those expenses during future proceedings in order to pass the costs along to ratepayers.
So this is routine.
Oh, so it is because of the price caps.
Of the government.
It's exactly because of the price caps. They would have to deliver the service at a loss, and they're not interested in delivering it.
This is exactly the problem. This is routine maintenance. This is not something that
they have to get approved.
Yeah, right.
And this is what happens when the government runs your business for you. They do it wrong.
Yep.
It just doesn't make any sense to have routine maintenance have to get approved by a government bureaucracy.
That's where they're at.
If it's a for-profit entity, they will have their own incentives to keep costs down.
Well, they are for profit. It's just that they're regulated to death by the government.
Right.
So this. To some extent, you can't feel sorry for the power company, right? Because, when they came in originally, it was going to be a sweet deal, right? Like, hey, you get the monopoly. You get to charge what we say you can charge, but you're the only one who gets to charge it. So therefore, you're going to make big bucks. Come on in. And they went in and they set up and they put the investment in and they rolled out the power to people, whatever decade it was that, they did this. And now here we are a few decades later. They've been regulated to the point where they cannot even cut the brush away from the power lines without asking for permission. Without asking for permission to raise their rates in order to cover the cost of doing it.
The solution to these problems.
Nobody got time for that.
The solution to these problems is not regulation. It's competition. Competition will solve these problems. So,
that's
it's not regulation.
Not going to be on the proposed. No one's going to propose that on the table in California. 855, 450 free. They're just going to let it burn, or just let the power go out. One or the other.
I said, "Oh Lord Jesus, is a fire."
More coming up here in moments. This is Free Talk Live.
Does your dog itch, scratch, stink, or shed like crazy? Come to Dynavite for help.
Order a 90-day supply of Dynavite.
Everything we tried failed except the Dynavite.
Pick up 2 bottles of Super Mega Fish Oil.
Get the 3rd bottle free. Packed with omega-3, DHA, and EPA fatty acids.
Super Mega is great for your dog's immune system, healthy skin, and soft, shiny fur.
Dogs love it. Try Super Omega Fish Oil.
Buy 2, get 1 free.
At Dynavite.com.
DINOVITE.com.
This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever you want here. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We do have the Discord on-air call-in line rooms at discord.lrn.fm. Is oral care important to you? Well, it should be. If you want to have a whiter and cleaner smile and fresh breath, you ought to check out My Magic Mud. It's a black tooth powder made of charcoalized coconut shells and bentonite clay. Sounds pretty crazy, right? Like putting something that's black in your mouth in order to make it whiter, or at least your teeth whiter. On Free Talk Live, many of our hosts have been using My Magic Mud since they were just getting started. It's a libertarian-founded company, and they actually got their start by distributing it at the Porcupine Freedom Festival many years ago. And, of course, we had attended that at the time, so we got to meet these folks, and they're great, and the product is great. In fact, you can use it every day for 4 days, and then every 3 or 4 days afterwards, and you will definitely see effects. In fact, it's been clinically proven to whiten teeth, and you can get your My Magic Mud at local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocer, CVS, and even Walmart's Natural Beauty aisle, but we can get you 20% off with code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. So get the discount, and if you order enough, you'll get free shipping as well at mymagicmud.com, code FTL, like Free Talk Live 20, mymagicmud.com. As we continue, bring up whatever is on your mind. We've been talking about this PG&E California Power Company nonsense where basically the power company in California, or there's more than one, but PG&E was one of them, and then there was another one that you'd met. Was it Edison, I think? Power company?
I'm not sure.
Anyway, they're going to possibly be shutting down power for what could be not just hours, but days at a time, based on certain conditions.
Yeah, multiple days up to a week.
Yeah, could be if it's too windy or, whatever the conditions are, they can shut down the power because they're afraid that the conditions will lead to fires being started. Well, why would the fires be started? Well, because the brush hasn't been cleared and the trees haven't been cleared away from the power lines. Well, why hasn't that happened? Well, because the government hasn't allowed them to increase their prices, the $1.8 billion that they would need in order to pay for all the ongoing maintenance that they have to do.
Routine maintenance, might I add.
So the government's like, well, we don't want our people to have to pay more for their power, so we're just not going to approve these things. We'll just go ahead and have them shut it off instead.
Yikes.
Now, how much they need to do the maintenance? They need $1.8 billion. How many people are they cutting power off for?
Possibly 5 million, up to 5 million. Not necessarily all at once, but it could be a block.
Yeah, I believe it was like 28 days was what they're estimating as far as the number of days that they were likely to be without power.
You mean over the whole summer?
Over the whole summer. So, that's a lot.
Third of the summer.
Right, exactly.
Wow.
So this is crazy.
And this would be less than $1,000 for each customer if I'm doing this math right in my head. If they just took the $1.8 billion, as opposed to, how many people wouldn't be willing to pay a few hundred extra dollars to have power all summer?
And you have to remember that's going to be spread out over probably like the course of a year or longer.
Yeah, who knows?
In terms of the price increases, so you won't even notice it probably in your bill. At least not.
Yeah, it would be less than $50 a month. Again, if my math is right, I'm going to have to do this again with a calculator.
Yeah.
Yep, and they haven't approved that yet. So in the meantime, they're just going to be cutting the power. I mean, it's just as crazy as it can possibly be. Total government regulatory botching and mismanagement, not allowing a company to do what it needs to do to maintain its facilities, to maintain safe delivery of power. Because I think it's worth pointing out that in the other 49 states, which also many of them have high wind situations, which also have the same weather problems that California does, they don't have the same issues.
Yeah. They're going to be the only state in America that has planned power outages that I can imagine. And it harkens back a little bit to me. And if you're in California and you're listening to this and you find yourself sitting in the dark and thinking about it, there's a book called Atlas Shrugged. And Ayn Rand predicted that socialism would end in the United States when the lights went out on New York City. So you're on the other side of the country, but you're seeing the start of it.
Yep. Yeah, so I just divided 1.8 billion, I divided 1.8 billion by roughly 5 million customers, and it's 360. So if you do that divided by 12, you're talking about $30 a month. $1 a day.
Wow. Yeah. Wow, isn't that? It's amazing the power of long division to make you understand a story. There's another great usage of that where people are always complaining about CEO pay. And it's like, well, the CEO of McDonald's makes $14 million a year, and he's got 2.7 million employees. So if you divided his entire salary across all of his employees, they'd get less than $10 a year. Less than $10 a year.
Let's go to Gene.
$1 a month.
He's the Christian anarchist on the line on our Discord call-in line rooms. Go ahead, Gene.
Now, how do you know it's me?
Well, I talked to you during the break.
Right, exactly.
He prophesied.
However, this is what I'm talking about. I just was reading up on the state of the art with deep fakes and AI.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's an impersonator.
Oh, I see what you're saying. How do we know we're talking to the actual Gene?
We don't, right?
That is absolutely correct. Right now,
this is not the Christian anarchist you're looking for.
You're right. So they have the AI technology now where they can just sample your voice and then spit out anything you want,
right?
And it sounds just like you.
It does sound pretty good.
I might not be the Christian anarchist. I could be the FBI or the CIA. You just never know who. But
the technology's messing up right there.
Yeah, it's a glitch in the Matrix.
I think we know you're not the real Gene here, because if you were, you wouldn't be breaking up like that.
Hey, didn't that black cat just come in here?
It's a Matrix reference, kids.
That's proof.
It's true.
They're trying to interrupt my message.
But, they can't stop the signal.
So I've called in the past about deep fakes, and I said that I really like this technology because it gives you the plausible deniability on everything. It doesn't matter what evidence they provide these days. It's getting to the point where you can't prove that it's real. And
scary.
But the biggest problem with this whole point of mine is that the people have to know this first. You have to get the message out that this technology not only exists, this is only the technology that little plebes like us can get our hands on, just the general public. The technology that that's the CIA and NSA have, their technology is probably 10 times better than
Gene, I'm a little skeptical that it's actually going to be useful in a courtroom, unfortunately, even though I would agree with you, generally speaking, because ultimately it's going to be like something to the effect of, well, yeah, that could be fake, but it's more likely real than not. I mean, who's going to go through, the hours and hours and all the technological knowledge to actually do that? And so you're still going to get convicted. And you're talking about a group of people who are generally not going to know the technology or understand what's being explained.
What you're going to have to do is bring in an expert witness to take apart that video.
Money.
It's just like seeing if a picture has been photoshopped, except imagine a photoshopped picture and then trying to apply that same technique to a film. You're going to have artifacts all through your stuff. There are going to be things that don't move right.
Yes, but even that doesn't show up so much anymore, because now with the AI technology I saw where they can actually create brand new people that don't even exist and make them appear in an image as if they're actual, real, moving, talking people. Now, if they can do that with created people, they can certainly take your features and put them on a created person in a created environment, and the technology will be to such a high level that you will not be able to tell that that's fake.
I actually have a story about this in my show prep here tonight. If you want to stick with us, Gene, if you have more to say, you can stand by here in moments. 855-450 free like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Deep fakes, they are a thing. They are a thing now, and they're only going to get better. We'll tell you more about it coming up. This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything that you want. All you have to do is dial in, toll free here. We're talking about everything from power outages scheduled for this summer in California due to total bureaucratic regulatory mismanagement. And we got into that earlier in the hour. You're still welcome to comment on that. And then Gene, the Christian Anarchist, called in about the latest on deepfakes, which we've covered here on Free Talk Live previously. And it's something that is going to keep coming up because this technology is in its infancy right now, and it's already pretty amazing. Now, Rich, you just got turned on to this recently. I think we talked about deepfakes on an after show that we did.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it a couple of times while I've been on, maybe one after show and one during show. But yeah, it's really concerning to me. I do think that there will be artifacts, just like a good Photoshop even has artifacts under the surface that you can find. I think that if and when they start bringing in fake videos to courtrooms, and who knows if they already have,
right?
It's going to be very expensive to find the expert to say that's a fake thing. So really, the people that have to be educated about this are defense attorneys more than anything else, because it's going to be up to them to educate the juries, and that's going to be a difficult job.
Gene, the Christian Anarchist, is with us here. Gene, was there more you wanted to say on the subject?
Well, I wanted to say that the current state of trial procedure right now is that you can have your experts, but in the future, we don't know what they're going to do, because they have changed the power of the jury, the power of the courts. They've changed all this stuff over time. And although you can currently get an expert to testify, at any time the judge can turn you down, or simply they can change the rules on you, or even without changing the rules, like I say, the judge can just rule against you and say, no, your expert's not going to be allowed.
Sure. I mean, look what they did to Ross Ulbricht. They basically prevented them from calling the witnesses that would have been helpful to his case in the case of the Silk Road, the underground drug market.
Yep.
Yeah, frequently in a politically sensitive or a PR case, although I guess that political sensitivity and public relations are the same thing, they are perfectly happy to break the rules every single time.
Well,
right,
remember, rule number one in the at least the New Hampshire district courts is that the judge can waive the rules at any time in the interest of justice. And I suspect every other court system has that as rule number one, because
even if they don't have that as rule number one, they still break the rules, and then you have to take it to a higher court, and the higher court may or may not rule in your favor. I mean,
well, it's not. What I'm saying is, it's not breaking the rules by their own rules, because rule number one allows them to waive the rules.
Is this an actual rule? It's written down somewhere.
New Hampshire District Court rules. Pull them up. It's rule number one. Are you
serious?
I'm not joking.
The court rules are under the direct control of the judge. They're not voted on by any legislature. They're not handed down by the Supreme Court. They're under the control of the presiding judge.
Well, I mean, somebody wrote those rules, but the judge, while presiding, can waive them at any time. That's rule number one.
I thought the judge could also change them.
That's what I'm telling you. He can ignore them at will.
Well, he can ignore them, but can't he also change their text?
That's the same difference. No. It's that the rules are what they are, but they can be waived, so they mean nothing.
Oh, okay.
Right? The rules you have to follow, but they don't.
So there are no rules. It sounds to me like the anarchy we've all been fearing all these years is what we're currently living under.
Yeah.
But most people
Well,
just
the problem
don't
is
realize
it's not anarchy until we start defending ourselves. Until then, it's chaos.
Well, no rules. They don't have any rules that they follow.
It's true. Gene,
No,
thanks
they
for the
don't.
call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you. He's there on our Discord server. If you want to chat with him, he's one of the various different folks that are hanging out in there on a regular basis. So check that out over at discord.lrn.fm. I'll tell you a little more about deepfakes here, but I also want to say thanks to Ashredo, who is a Free Talk Live silver amplifier. Ashredo contributing $5 a month to the AMP program. AMP stands for Advertise, Market, and Promote. The idea is you can send $5 a month in via PayPal or credit card or Bitcoin BTC, and you can help us get Free Talk Live onto more radio stations. We're on over 200 stations across the week at this point, and we can do more. We can hit 300. It's possible. It just takes time. It takes marketing, and that's what the AMP program is all about. You get some cool perks as well as an amplifier, like access to the AMP chat rooms on our Discord server. There's an AMP-only Facebook group for those of you still on Facebook, and some other perks as well. Get all the details over at ampamp.freetalklive.com. Please sign up. It makes a big difference for us, and we really appreciate it. It's a way for you to show us, you appreciate what we're doing here. amp.freetalklive.com. So, to the story here about the deepfakes, and I've actually had a couple of them in my show prep. Then this other one popped up last night. Jessica Lindsay writing over at metro.co.uk, talking about the deepfakes porn and the ethics of being able to watch whatever your imagination desires. Pornography online attracts millions of erotica-hungry people ready to see sex on demand. You can simply ask your phone to show you anything that you want, and there it is, anytime, any place. With the advent of deepfakes porn, the possibilities have expanded even further, with people who have never starred in adult films looking as though they're doing sexual acts on camera, which is, by the way...
And now they've got the facial recognition, too, to connect the two, the people on Facebook with the people on...
Right.
Yeah,
you
on
can
porn
take
sites.
anybody.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Anybody with a Facebook profile or Instagram profile, you can, if you've got the programming chops, you can put into deepfakes porn. And that's what it was programmed for. That's where deepfakes came from, was from people wanting to take like the head of their favorite actor or actress and from like Hollywood and put them into a porn film. That's what the technology came from.
So we all need to get tattoos on our butts that nobody regularly sees, so that
that way you can say it wasn't you.
When they show the porn, it's like no, he doesn't have my unique butt tattoo. That's my UUID.
Experts have warned these videos enable all sorts of bad things to happen, from pedophilia to fabricated revenge porn. Now, what are deepfakes? Deepfakes in videos are videos and images that use deep learning AI to forge something not actually there. Now, is it really AI, though?
It's an expert system.
Actually,
it's not intelligent.
Yeah, I think Rich. Yeah, I think you're right about that. Probably.
Yeah, I've watched it run.
You actually know what I'm talking about when I say none of this stuff is AI that they're talking about most of the time.
Oh, no. I used to write what was marketed as AI, and it wasn't AI. It was an expert system.
Yeah, so Rich is going to agree with me on this one.
So tell me what an expert system is versus AI.
AI almost requires consciousness because an AI would have to be a self-sustaining mind, something that had its own volition, I think. I can't imagine how you could have an intelligence without a volition, because intelligence is, it's an act. You have to choose to think.
Yeah, it would have to be self-learning, I think, as part of it too. Like, so it's not just pre-programmed, but something it's going to pick up on its own. Learn something.
Yeah,
new.
it would have to be able to solve problems that it had never been envisioned solving. Right. That would be one thing. That would be a sign of it, where it would probably have to be capable of natural language communication, which is the first problem that AI one of the problems that has to be solved is getting the meaning of an English sentence into a computer. Even a typewritten English sentence is very difficult. Facebook knows what words you're using, but it doesn't know what you're saying until a human reads it.
Well, not always. The humans don't always know what you're saying.
Well, humans don't always know what you're saying, but they have a chance. Computers don't even have a chance of figuring out what you're saying at this point. English is really difficult to parse, which is one of the reasons we have computer languages. They're easy to parse because they're structured.
True. Well, the expert learning systems are certainly getting better than they've ever been, if we're going to use that terminology, because I saw a story this week, just doesn't have anything to do with deepfakes, but they've taught through hundreds of thousands of iterations of playing video games, they've taught computers how to play capture the flag effectively against human opponents, and they're using the Quake 3 engine. Quake 3 Arena, I think is what it's called, and they've actually managed to defeat a team of, like, you know how they have the esports teams, like the best players in the world kind of people? They can now defeat the best human players of Capture the Flag with computer opponents.
Part of the problem, though, is they're programming that system to defeat, and to teach it that game. It's not learning the game on its own and then going and defeating.
Well, that's what they're saying. It is learning through playing the game. They're not necessarily telling it what to do.
It's probably more like pattern recognition,
within parameters that were designed by the programmers. The programmers knew what problem that computer was solving when they sat down to write that thing.
Yeah, it's not going to go. That code's not going to go and learn to do something else.
That's right. It won't take up badminton.
AI would.
The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. More about the deep fakes on the way here, and plus, since we're talking about pornography, what about the 16-year-old that is now going to a state Supreme Court with her case about her creating her own pornography and being arrested for child porn?
Would you like to hang out with Penn Jillette? He's keynoting Freedom Fest this year. I, for one, am thrilled. Freedom Fest is the largest liberty-oriented gathering in the world. They take a Big Ten approach with libertarians, conservatives, liberals, anarchists, capitalists, and just open-minded people mingling together to hear real debates, share real solutions, and converse freely. This year's theme is the Wild West, a time of liberty and opportunity, or a time of anarchy and violence. Maybe both. Go to freedomfest.com/FTL and get your tickets now. freedomfest.com/FTL. Not convinced yet? Hey, I understand. It's a high-end event. Even with coupon code FTL50. Sure, you're likely to receive investment advice that'll make that sum seem paltry, but I have something special for you. Go to freedomfest.com/FTL and you'll get the 5 best speeches from last year for free. Call it a test drive. Do yourself a favor and go to freedomfest.com/FTL. freedomfest.com/FTL. Use coupon code FTL50 for a discount.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. We're launching into the third hour of the program. You can dial in toll-free. Take control of the airwaves at 855-450, free like freedom. It's 855-450-3733. In the studio tonight, it's Ian.
The nobody formerly known as Rich Paul.
And Chris.
We're talking about deep fakes. They're back in the news again, and you're going to start hearing more about deep fakes because they're going to get better and better over time. Deep fakes.
Hey, what they got Obama saying there?
I haven't actually checked that yet, so I'm not sure how radio friendly it is.
Well, if it's the president, it's legal.
Not if it was deep faked.
That's what Richard Nixon said.
Oh.
It's legal when the president does.
So what is a deep fake? They're videos and images, that's according to metro.co.uk, that they call deep learning AI, but we just talked about how they're not really AI. It's just
they're not AI.
Well-programmed system, basically.
Yeah, a computer will know that he's created AI the first time it reaches out and smacks him.
This can be done to so what they're doing is they're using this learning system to forge something that never originally existed, based on photos or videos, source videos of a person, for instance. This can be done to make a fake speech to misrepresent a politician's views, or to create porn videos featuring people who didn't star in them, or, as we've suggested here, to create videos of a so-called criminal robbing a store when he wasn't actually there robbing the store, or whatever.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things that we can do to prevent these things from being given more value than they are, because remember, anybody could have written a cartoon that was clearly you doing whatever sex act they wanted before. I can show you Simpsons porn. I can show you Futurama porn.
If you can think of it, there's porn of it, right? There's Rule
if you
34.
can think of it, there's porn of it, and lots of people have thought of it.
Yep, before you did. Yeah.
Oh God, I didn't think of it till I saw it. My God. But I mean, I'll Polly, that's fine, but tunes, I couldn't do a tune. I could do Jessica Rabbit. I could do Jessica Rabbit. I confess.
Let's move on. So how are they made? Well, in two ways. Using a generative adversarial network, or GAN. This type of system has two parts. One which creates the fake images, and one that works out how realistic it is, learning from its past mistakes. Or two, autoencoders are another way to create deepfakes. These are neural networks that can learn all of the features of a given image, then decode those features so they can change the image. Now, these methods vary in efficacy and quality, with GANs giving a less blurry result, but being trickier to train. Samsung recently created I'm going to replace AI with system. A system that was able to make deepfake videos using single images. Now, when we were looking at this on one of our after shows, we saw it. I don't know if you've seen these yet, Chris.
I probably have.
Where they took the Mona Lisa.
Yeah, I've seen this.
Yeah, okay. So the Mona Lisa, a famous painting.
Yeah.
And they made that into a video of Mona Lisa like speaking or looking like she's real.
Yeah, see, I saw that possibility immediately, and that's what I meant when I was saying that I wanted to do the nobody speeches. Give the speech, but then do a deep fake where the speech was animated with a Guy Fawkes mask.
Yeah.
So instead of a man wearing a mask speaking, you see the mask speaking.
Yep.
I love it. Have you actually ever looked into any of the deep fake stuff?
Yes, he has.
I've looked at it. Everything I saw ran on Windows, so I kind of lost interest because
there's definitely
Linux.
There's got to be.
Yeah, systems for that.
I thought there must be, but I looked at like two of them, and they were both Windows, and I was like, yeah, I'll come back to this later because I got 10,000 things on my plate.
Yeah.
Also, they did another painting called Girl with a Pearl Earring. We saw these iconic paintings.
Not Girl with a Pearl Necklace, then we're back to porn.
Right. Smiling, talking, and looking completely alive. And I gotta say, considering it was only based on one image.
It looks good.
Yeah.
It looks amazing. In recent weeks, there's been an explosion of face-swapping content, with Snapchat and FaceApp releasing realistic filters that allow you to see your looks as the opposite gender, as well as previous aging filters going viral once more. For all the fun, however, there's a darker side to using AI to create deepfakes.
Something that I'm thinking is I looked at a picture online today where there was a mother with a baby on her lap. They were both looking at the camera, and both of their faces had been replaced by cat faces, and they were clearly looking at the camera at the same image, and so it was actually a video.
The cats were looking at the camera?
No. These the people who had like cat faces deep faked onto them as an effect are looking at the output of that, and so the child is seeing his mother and himself with a different face posted out. Now that child is not going to grow up to instinctively believe everything he sees on video,
right?
Because he's seeing that from birth. They've got a window of opportunity to rook the old people, and then that's going to go away because once you've seen 10,000 videos in your inbox of your cheerleader girlfriend having sex with a random guy, 10,001 isn't going to convince you of anything.
True. Yeah. A number of celebrities have had their faces superimposed onto pornographic videos, including Selena Gomez, Emma Watson, Scarlett Johansson, and even Jennie from girl group Blackpink falling victim. Deepfakes of Donald Trump and Barack Obama have been made, and there are concerns that they can be used to undermine democracy.
The way to prevent this from undermining democracy is go full bore on. Make them nasty. Make them go viral. I'm not saying necessarily porn. Maybe you can, if you hate Trump enough, maybe you can, do a deep fake of Hitler delivering one of Trump's speeches.
Sure.
Wow, that would be
do
really
the thing.
interesting.
Show people the power of this art so that they're not fooled by it, because as Robert Heinlein, our first prophet, says, every magic is somebody else's technology. Now, supernatural is a no word.
I'm wondering if they're going to attempt to outlaw deep fakes, and I wonder if anybody's actually proposed any bills to do so.
Wouldn't surprise me if they do.
You know what's interesting is then we'll only have deep fakes that are used for malicious purposes or whatever.
When they outlaw deep fakes, only outlaws will have deep fakes, and more importantly, if they're being circulated, none of them are being disproven. Nobody knows that deep fakes exist if they get outlawed. It will never subconsciously creep into your mind that this is possible until you've seen it over and over again.
I think there's also a potential positive to this, and we're always talking about the negatives to technology, but there's also the potential positive. I mean, think about yourself in a camera and being able to see yourself with different clothing on or something of that nature. It's the same technology.
It would be great for selling clothes. I've seen that in science fiction already.
That's, behind deepfakes, that could be used for that as well.
I think that it's positive, just the fact that it's going to throw into question all video, period. End of story.
But that works both ways because they can also use that against cop block when we show up with a video of a cop whacking somebody.
That's
true. So
true.
that makes it important not that one person films, but that everybody films and that you get it out. Public, live stream it if you can, because if you deep fakes take hours.
They take time.
Hours,
They do
sometimes
now.
days to process.
For now.
So if you're live streaming, it's very difficult to say it's a deep fake.
That's
there
true.
would be a time discrepancy.
That's true, but timestamps are not exactly accurate.
That's
either,
why I'm saying live stream, because if other people are watching it.
Help. I don't know. They still use things like timestamps though in court cases, which also I kind of throws my skepticism into question.
Well, you do. But you can also say, that clock was wrong, and if you offer evidence to that effect, you can.
But you don't necessarily
have the judge take notice,
right? But you don't necessarily know that the clock was changed if it was changed and then set back, and there's other factors, and sometimes it's obvious, but you wouldn't necessarily. But even if you check and the clock is right on a computer. Well, the clock has already been set back, and how are you going to know that the clock had been changed?
That's why we hire the smartest attorneys we can find.
There's more on the way here.
Attorneys that are going to,
Our number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. You want to weigh in? You're welcome to join us. Also on the Discord on-air call-in line rooms. Your thoughts on deepfakes and what does it mean for the future of knowing what's real?
One of the things.
It's Free Talk Live. It is Free Talk Live. You can dial in toll-free and join us here. The number is 855-450-FREE. Like freedom. It's a good thing I didn't play that Obama clip that you had requested on the deepfakes page. This news story from metro.co.uk. It's entitled, "You Won't Believe What Obama Says" in this video. And it's a minute-long video, but there's an S-bomb and an F-bomb in there because it's actually Obama being backed by comedian, I think it's his name is Keenan Peele, I think it is.
Key and Peele?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Those are the guys I showed you the text message thing. Yeah.
I know who they are. I couldn't remember which one it was, though. It's one of the two. I'm not sure which one is named Key and which one is Peele.
I think Peele's the tall, bald guy.
Okay. This is the not tall. Sure. This is the not tall one. But anyway, so he says a couple of things we could not play on the radio, but it's a pretty persuasive video, and this one I think is fairly old as far as deepfakes go. Let me get
now,
the
I
actual
think
date.
that's the same actor who played Obama's anger on one video that Obama actually participated in. So this is somebody who knows and likes Obama.
So this one, it was from April of 2018. So this is a year old as far as the tech is concerned, and it looks like Barack Obama saying things that you would never expect him to actually say. And we'll put the link to the story on our social media. So if you follow us on Mastodon, for instance, over at toot.freetalklive.com, Also, there's still a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com and also telegram.freetalklive.com. This link will go up there, and then you can watch it on your own. But again, like I said, this is an old video. I mean, the newer stuff, they're taking like Obama's easy to deepfake because politicians like that, there's a zillion hours of footage that they can use as their source as far as how they can fake the video. But
how many hours of footage and especially voice print do you think they have on you, bro?
A lot.
Yeah.
They don't even.
And me too. All of us. They could take those 420 videos and
they don't need a whole lot. One. It's like they need like 5 minutes or something like that. Maybe not even that.
They're down to one frame.
Yeah, they can do it with just a photo
of audio. I'm talking about
audio. Yeah. Audio's harder to. Well, I mean that adds an extra level of complexity, but still, somebody like Obama or an actor or anything like that, I mean, they got everything they need.
It's basically a short conversation. It's all they need in order to basically make you say anything they want.
So, what sort of things do you think? And I'm addressing this especially to you, that you would look for to recognize a dark fake of me, for example. Like the first thing I would look at is my word choices are bizarre. I've got an unusual vocabulary, so I would expect, not to see a lot of strange words falling out of my place. I would expect the thing. If it was my face on somebody else's body, I would expect it to move differently. Like, I'm kind of awkward. But
I think the thing that's going to scream not you is probably going to be because it doesn't sound, not like visually sound like you, or audio, audio doesn't sound like you, or visually look like you. It's not so much that. I think it's going to be what's actually being you're being basically made to say. It's not going to sound like you. So if you say, I want to, commit genocide, I'm going to know that's not you. It's a fake because you're not.
Or it's me trying out for a play or something.
Right. It's not. That just doesn't add up as far as at least having known you. That's not something that you would say. And so that's what I think is probably going to be the telltale sign. It's not even necessarily whether or not it's got artifacts in it or anything like that. It's probably,
people that know the person can probably identify that it's not them, but most people seeing it won't necessarily know.
Right.
Unless they have some level of familiarity with the subject.
Right, and there may be something else that's going to be a telltale sign. But I think a part of deep fakes and the technology behind it is it gets better, right? Like this is kind of an early phase right now, and so it's not going to be pixel perfect, but it's going to be close enough for the masses.
Right. It's already
the question really good. Right, I know, I've seen it. I think the question is, where is this going to go down the line? And I think you are probably going to get to a point where an expert may not be able to tell the difference. But it's probably not there now.
You might, but if we keep pumping this stuff out and milking it for all the comedic gold it's worth, by the time videos get that good, nobody will believe them. Nobody will have that instinctive reaction that we have that this must be real. Because they've seen, President Obama in a tutu dancing around and singing I'm a Little Teapot 17 times,
Well, and Singularity in our Discord chat says, culture will go back to being about mythology. Now that everything can be faked, nothing is real.
But nothing was already real. So that's just bringing the one area where things couldn't be faked, audio, video, up to the level of laws and financial records and research documents and global warming models of things that really can't be falsified unless you really know what you're talking about.
So much of what we interpret around the world, is not real already. I mean,
we're in the Matrix. Everything's fake.
I don't know if we're there. I mean, if we are, it's obviously I haven't been convinced of that. But it's one of these things where we are already lied to on a regular basis. Everybody around us is even lying to us.
Right. So now we can make fake videos of politicians telling the truth.
Yes.
See, that would be an absolutely great way to use that. I think would be
that would be really great.
Yeah, and hey, if you learn to do this, I'll make a whole series of deep fakes with you. We'll drive the establishment crazy.
I don't have the time. It's creating a good deep fake actually is a lot of work. and time. It's not something.
It's going to get easier, and it's going to take less time.
If you want to make a really bad deepfake, you can do it fairly quickly. But if you want to make a good, if you want to make a good deepfake, you're going to have to spend a lot more time on it.
DARPA in the U.S. has spent millions on media forensics to thwart these videos, working with academics across the world to detect what's real and otherwise. But according to Henry Farid, a Dartmouth College computer science professor who advises a similar forensic fake spotter service called TruePic, specialists working to build these systems are, quote, still totally outgunned, unquote. In the UK, there's no specific legislation against deepfakes, bringing calls for more stringent laws on altered images.
Did I not call this like 10 minutes ago?
Yeah.
They do say in the UK those distributing videos can be charged with harassment, however. In principle, it makes sense that someone could claim their likeness was used with malicious intent, and this could be tried as a defamation case or
it's a copyright infringement too, technically, probably.
No, you don't own the front copyright on your own image. It might be infringing the photographer's copyright, though.
No,
if they can identify the image that they use.
There is not. Okay. Let me back up a second. So it's not copyright, I don't think, but there is some other kind of right to your likeness.
That is to say, a person cannot profit from the use of your likeness.
Yes.
So
yeah.
If they record video of you and then they go off to sell that video without giving you a cut or whatever, then that's generally considered a no-no legally in the United States, as I understand it. I'm not an attorney.
Yeah,
but if they're not trying to profit from it, then you can't do anything to them about
and
it.
the other thing is the harassment thing should not stand up if you're talking about a politician, because they're fair game for all kinds of things you can't say about other people.
The UK
may be different. I'm more projecting this over here.
Yeah, and this is going to be a worldwide problem here. And it's very interesting. We'll continue here in moments. There's also a related case. Since we're talking about pornography, a 16-year-old female is facing child porn charges for making a sex video of herself, and it's going to a Supreme Court. Free Talk Live has found that though U.S. financial institutions are prohibited from doing business with foreign gambling websites, it's not illegal for U.S.-based internet users to gamble on those sites. People have been using VPNs or virtual private networks to connect to sites like games.bitcoin.com and play games with Bitcoin Cash. Games.bitcoin.com features poker, blackjack, roulette, craps, keno, slots, and dice. You can conduct your own investigation at games.bitcoin.com. It's Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever you want here. Our toll-free number, 855-450, free like freedom. It's 855-450-3733. Free Talk Live brought to you by Edge Wallet. It is the wallet that I use more often than any other. And I've used a bunch of cryptocurrency wallets. I like to know which ones are the best out there. And Edge is fantastic. I was using Edge long prior to when they became a sponsor of the show. It's available for both iOS and for Android. You can buy, sell, trade, and securely hold your cryptocurrencies, a bunch of them. And this is I'm not telling you them all. This is just a fraction of the cryptos that you can hold. Bitcoin, BTC, Ethereum tokens, Monero, Ripple, Stellar, Bitcoin Cash, Dash, and more. It's a veteran team. They've been building crypto wallets since 2014, back when it was Bitcoin-only wallets like Airbits was what they started with, but now it's a bunch of cryptos. You can secure your freedom with Edge over at edge.app. Download it from the Google or Apple app stores, or visit edge.app on the web for more information. It's a great wallet. I just used it today. I think I pretty much use it every day. I mean, here in Keene, New Hampshire, in Crypto Mecca, it's pretty easy to go and spend cryptocurrency pretty much every day of the week on multiple things.
Easily. Multiple times a day if you even.
Yeah, I'm going to the car repair shop. I just didn't make it out there this afternoon.
Steve Wilder,
my car's ready, but I got to go tomorrow morning.
I actually made an appointment just yesterday.
Yep, and I'll be paying my bill with cryptocurrency, and I'll be using edge.app. So we continue here. We've been talking about deep fakes. But let's talk about real so-called pornography, child porn specifically. In this case,
what does that mean? First of all, what are we talking about? Because there's,
I would argue this is not a child.
Yeah,
but I mean, legally, the legal world defines anybody under the age of arbitrary number picked by politicians as a child.
And this is going to change from state to state too, presumably, right?
State to state,
it's federal.
Well, no. State to state, there are different laws that are age of consent ages, but there's a specific age in most states. I think it's 18 in almost every state for pornography performance. I don't think that's federal, is it?
I'm pretty sure it is, because the law requiring you to keep records is federal. You've seen it.
That's for commercial pornography.
Well, that is for commercial pornography, but I would imagine that's
you don't have
probably
to have
under
records
the
for
same
amateur
title.
porn.
I feel like they're going to define
true.
any kind of porn as commercial, simply because
not amateur
it
porn
impacts interstate commerce.
Not if it's not if it's not intended to be sold.
Yeah, well, there's always a risk of it, because maybe it was intended to be uploaded to YouTube, but then YouTube's going to sell it. So did you intend them to sell it?
They look at like the drugs. I mean, they outlaw marijuana because it can be, because even if you only sell it within the state, because it can impact interstate commerce. So the same thing is going to be argued probably, and it's going to be very easily accepted by the courts, just given this type of case is a very emotional type of thing.
I'm pretty sure there's state laws about how old you have to be to be seen in.
There might be state laws, but
there
there's also
may be state laws that are lower. But I'm pretty sure there's a federal law that sets it at 18. But there may be state laws that set it at 21. I don't know.
I know there's
I think they're all pretty consistent across 18.
There's countries.
See, that's what I always thought, and that's generally an indicator that it's a federal thing.
There's countries like the Netherlands where it's like 17 is for pornography.
Interesting.
So I only know that because I know one of the things you do not do is, if you travel to the Netherlands, you do not take pornography back to whatever other country you're traveling back to.
Because it may become a crime.
In Europe, because you'll get charged with child porn.
Reason.com reporting that Maryland's highest court will soon decide whether a 16-year-old girl, they're calling her SK because she's under the age of 18, and so therefore they don't use the full name.
They're too young to say her. She's too young for them to say her name, but not too young for them to lock her up.
Exactly.
Right.
Can face child pornography charges for taking a video of herself performing a sex act and sending it to a few of her close friends. Apparently, the friends weren't close enough, as you'll find out here in a moment. SK shared the video in which she performs consensual oral sex on an unidentified male with two close friends and fellow students, who later reported her to the school resource officer.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Why would you snitch out your friend who, gave you a happy, apparently?
This sounds like something somebody would do in elementary school, maybe middle school, and I don't even think that.
You mean snitching or
the whole
recording
snitching thing? I mean,
well, you know how kids can be. I mean, young people in general. In high school, there's some very severe cliques, right? One group of people hates the other group of people or whatever. So if this falls into the wrong hands, you share it with your close friend and you say, "Oh, don't share this with anybody," and then they share it with their close friends.
See,
and
I didn't have that experience where I went to high school because I went to such a large high school, but I can certainly see a smaller high school being like a lot of little cliques like that.
So SK, of all the whoever the other person was in the video, SK was the only one charged in connection with the alleged crime. The Special Court of Appeals upheld SK's conviction, ruling that the consensual nature of the sex act in question was irrelevant, as was the fact that it was not illegal for SK to perform the act. So apparently, I'm guessing age of consent in Maryland maybe 16 if it wasn't illegal for her to perform it, or maybe because they were both teenagers. There's certain laws.
Presumably it's possession that she's charged with, right?
16 or younger. I mean, the lowest.
Oh, manufacture.
When I was in South Carolina, it was 13. So the South is different.
Taking a video of the act and sending it to other people constituted distribution of child pornography, according to the initial appeals court's decision. The court wrote in their decision, quote, "The First Amendment to the United States Constitution did not protect conduct of a minor who distributed a digital video file of herself engaged."
I want to know where it says that in the Constitution, because I'm pretty sure that's not in the Constitution.
That is nowhere in the Constitution.
That's a Supreme Court ruling that's not in the Constitution.
Right.
Yes. Most Supreme Court rulings aren't supported by the Constitution, including.
That might be true.
You referenced how is all this stuff considered interstate trade? Well, it all goes back to a case called, I think it was Wickard named v. Filburn. And a man was found to be engaged in interstate trade. This is during the Great Depression, because he was growing wheat on his own land to feed to his own animals. And that was interstate trade.
How?
And It's not. That's the thing. They just lied about what he was doing.
Their argument was something about it impacts interstate trade because it reduces the price or cost of goods or something to that effect.
Right, but that's the thing is they're given the power to regulate interstate trade, not to regulate anything that impacts interstate trade, which is everything.
Yeah.
Because in economics, everything is connected to everything else.
Right.
So basically, as soon as Wickard v. Filburn
they usurped power that they didn't have.
Our constitutional rights were gone in terms of economics. And that's what we've got to defeat is Wickard v. Filburn.
Well, and basically the court's saying that legal minors don't have free speech rights because ultimately publishing a video of yourself doing a thing, in this case sexual, is a free speech act.
Yeah, and you know it's interesting because they even ruled something like I believe they ruled something like viewing pornography at the Supreme Court is free speech. So it seems to be, and that was a recent ruling.
Really?
So it really, trying to wrap my head around this is just
because it's an underage person, all rationale, all sanity goes completely out the window. And so now it's going to what they call in Maryland the Maryland Court of Appeals. So it has already gone to the Special Court of Appeals. So apparently in Maryland,
isn't that special?
The Supreme Court there is called the Court of Appeals. The court is Maryland's equivalent of a state Supreme Court. Heard oral arguments in February. The proceedings are recorded, and they actually link to that. SK's attorney, public defender Claudia Cortez, argued that the statute in question was not intended to punish minors for being featured in pornographic materials, but rather to protect them. Punishing SK, as the state has attempted to do, is cruel and authoritarian. The state, on the other hand, asserted that SK needs guidance and that probation and mandatory mental health evaluations were reasonable outcomes, according to the Washington Post. Quote from the Post, at her initial hearing, the prosecutor said the state was not, quote, trying to prove a point in going forward with the case, but that, quote, the state believes that the respondent is in need of some guidance, rehabilitation for something deeper, and is just trying to help her. Look at a funny way.
By giving her a criminal record.
Funny way of helping people here.
It's okay for adults, but it's not okay for a 16-year-old.
I used to make $200,000 a year. Best job I've had since I got convicted of a felony. It was dishwasher.
There's more on the way here in moments. Our number 855-450 free. Your thoughts on this teenage young lady? Is she a criminal? It's Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live. Moments remain. Enough time for you if you want to join us here. Our number is 855-450 free, like freedom. You don't have to talk about the subject that is on the table, which right now happens to be a young lady, 16 years old, made a video of herself performing a sex act on a young man and shared it with people at her school, which resulted in it getting to the school resource officer and her being charged with distribution of so-called child pornography, which, as the defense attorney in this case pointed out, is not the intention of the child pornography statutes. The intention of child pornography laws is to help children who are victimized by pornographers who want to force them into sexual situations against their will. In this case, she wasn't a victim. And, of course, what the law would have you believe is that no one under the age of consent, well, of course, in this case, she was legally able to consent.
Yeah, she couldn't consent to the being filmed, of course. I mean, how could she consent to that?
Or
she's not allowed to consent. She can't consent. The law says she can't consent.
Well, actually, the law apparently says she can consent to the sex act.
She can consent to the sex act, yes, but not the pornography.
Not the porn, which is just the most insane thing. But that's the world we live in here, at least in the United States. Very common.
Yeah, the world we live in would actually put children on the sex offender list for this sort of thing. And most of the people, from what I understand, most of the people on the sex offender list committed no violent act. It's like something like 2/3 committed no violent act, and then a good portion of those
public urination
people who are college age or under. So basically, children and young adults, and the young adults are mostly getting in as a result of like pissing in garbage cans and things like that.
Maryland's age of consent is 16 years old. I did just check on that here, according to the story at Reason.com. And they're citing the Washington Post report. Because her case on the distribution of child pornography was in juvenile court, the teen never faced a mandatory sentence or the possibility of having to register as a sex offender. So she lucked out there. She was put on probation and referred for a mental health evaluation. But she's appealed the case, which is unusual. Most of the time when you're dealing with any criminal situation, most people just want to put it behind them and move on with their lives. If they get convicted, they just serve the sentence and they do it and it's over.
It is interesting because she was under 18, presumably she's not on a list, so that removes her incentive to fight it. And I'm assuming it's going to be a sealed case. So unless it's not sealed,
oh, you mean the court's ruling on this? The ruling's here from...
presumably nobody's going to know about this in the future.
Well, maybe she's doing it for the same reason that I fought my case the way I did, which is maybe she doesn't want it to happen to somebody else.
Right.
Maybe she just recognizes that she's the one person in a position to change a bad law.
Right, and I think you might be right. It takes a rare person to step up to the plate and fight this overwhelming force that is government.
So, first of all, this case is public in that the court ruling from the first appeals court is public. You can read through it.
But I'm presumably not her name.
Correct. SK is the only thing that
somebody's not going to be able to know in the future, be able to go and look this up and say, okay, your name is whatever XYZ, and type that into a search engine and find out that she, was doing something as a juvenile. She was convicted of something.
Yeah, that's an interesting. Right, I see what you're saying. That helps protect her.
Right. So so she doesn't really have the incentive to fight it. Basically, if she got if she doesn't have any jail time, and she is
fighting it.
Right. Which is what I'm saying. Right. I mean, this is really shocking that she's fighting it because most people wouldn't. So the only reason I could think of is that she's got some sort of moral ground.
She must not feel. Hey, right. They must not have convinced her that she was a victim. Imagine that, all the talk about...
Or a perpetrator.
Right.
All the talk about how victimized she's been by victimizing herself or whatever crazy, nonsense that has been spewing out of the prosecutors and the police's mouths here about how she needs help. She needs a health evaluation.
So, I don't think I mentioned this on air, but from what I understand, I don't know if I read this, I don't know if it was a quote from a cop or where I read this exactly, but it's something like most of the child porn being produced today is actually being produced by children.
And when you say children, you mean people under the age
people under the age of 18,
right? Because
that's not surprising because the sanctions against adults are so serious, and that's what organized crime. Now, I'm not saying this is organized crime. Obviously, this is just amateurs fooling around. It's being a stupid kid.
Well,
but
I mean, the cameras are all over now.
Right,
so
everybody's
have them, and kids are doing
and the
stuff.
Thing
and apparently
is,
putting
it's not
it on.
known and is an illegal thing to do. It's just. Maybe it's risque, but Paris Hilton got away with it, so why can't I?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because you're not old enough to do that, but you're old enough to get raped in jail.
It's crazy. And again, I think it's important to point out here that the definition of a child is someone who has not reached the age of puberty, and so therefore these are not children.
That's the medical definition.
Yeah, and that's why it's insulting to young people. These are basically...
Oh, it's definitely insulting.
These are basically adults. It's just that the system doesn't treat them that way.
Yeah, it's you've reached puberty, and yet you can't do the things that as a person who's reached puberty does. They're basically criminalizing you for being you. I mean, it's disturbing.
Well, under modern law, if you had been raped by Alexander the Great in his first year of conquest, you would have been guilty of rape because he was only 15 when he took command of his army and led it across Europe. Or wherever he led it. Macedonia?
That's right.
I'm sorry.
Wow, that's a really interesting comment there, Rich.
Yeah.
Well, even Mary was apparently like 12 years old when God impregnated her.
God is a pedophile.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry.
That so the final point here from Reason.com says that teens shouldn't send sexy videos to each other because they're bound to get out, cause embarrassment, and raise legal issues is something SK's parents, teachers, and school administrators could have impressed upon her without the heavy-handed involvement of the police and the courts. because, it might have been a little embarrassing.
They make a good point, but is that not her risk to take? It's her, it's her reputation. It's not anybody else's reputation.
Right. Well, no, all they're saying is don't bring the cops involved.
And it's a little bit of Streisand syndrome, too, because we wouldn't be talking about her blowjob on national radio if the police had not brought it to our attention.
Right.
So how much damage have they done to her reputation, such as it was?
It could have just been an embarrassing moment because, oh my God, this got out much further than I thought it was, right? Like, they may not realize how quickly this could spread, even though you'd think they should because it's the internet and things. But, she didn't think her friends were going to share it with their friends. She thought they were going to keep it quiet. She thought she could trust her friends. It could be a learning experience of, okay, well, if you're going to make a video like this, risks are involved that people who you didn't intend to see it are going to see it. You just learned that the hard way.
It begs the question, though. We keep saying that there is risks involved, but she seems to have taken the position that she understood what she was doing and that she disagrees with the law.
And
sure,
because she's fighting it. And she's taking it up a notch. She's not just fighting it.
No, she's doing the right thing here.
She's taking it up to a higher court.
And that's the thing. This is all based on the Puritan idea that the worst thing that could possibly happen to you is to be seen, on a photo, with a whatever in your mouth. I don't know what I can say on radio.
Yeah, when in doubt, leave it out.
Yeah.
But no, you're right about that because...
So it's like, this girl is not ruined like she would have been 100 years ago.
Yeah.
It was the prudes who made it that way.
Right.
It is.
And
this is a social problem, not a, it's a completely a social problem. I mean, it's a legal problem, but the reason we have these laws is a social one. So we need to change people's perspective on this and get people to understand that, it's not rape just because the law says it's rape. It's rape when somebody's actually forced or, violence is used against them.
Right. And that is only something that the person who was victimized should be able to determine. It shouldn't be coming from the opinion of a prosecutor or a police officer. If she's saying, hey, I consented to this, then people should respect that. Right. But Rich is right. All of this comes from the Puritan idea that sex is bad.
Right.
It doesn't matter in what circumstance you have it. It's bad. You should feel guilty if you're an adult. You should feel guilty if you're a young person. You should feel guilty just because it's bad. And that leads to all kinds of problems with individuals and how they live their lives and how their self-worth is.
Yeah. It's one group of people push or forcing their morals on another group of people. Let's take this from a different perspective. Let's take a look at the Middle East. If you were to expose if a woman were to expose her any part of her face, she'd be put to death.
In some parts.
Is that the morals that we want to have in the United States? I mean, what we should do is we should not have these laws in the first place because we could end up in a position someday where maybe that portion of society over in the Middle East come to the United States and the people then have those views. Well, we should be protecting ourselves from people with these types of views by simply making sure that our laws are going to protect everybody and not just force certain particular
community
majorities
standards.
Morals on the rest of us.
Yeah, I'm glad that I had some sexual experiences when I was a younger person because I never had those issues with thinking that I was doing something wrong because it was fun. As long as you're doing it safely, there's nothing that's inherently wrong with those acts. We'll see you tomorrow night online. In the meantime, freetalklive.com.
This is a special alert for business owners, consultants, coaches, folks planning retirement, entrepreneurs, and anyone who is saving and investing to build a financial future. You are likely aware that financial privacy for most people has recently died a miserable death. And let's face it, without privacy, there really is no security, is there? Bankrupt governments and banks on the verge of collapse are perhaps the biggest threat to your financial future today. The Lighthouse Law Club recognizes this and has been working diligently to provide safe, secure, and productive tools to ensure your privacy, your financial security, and your future financial well-being, despite the catastrophes which many people fear are looming ahead of us. Find out more with a variety of free videos on the YouTube channel for Lighthouse Law Club. Just search YouTube for Lighthouse Law Club and secure your future today.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.